Mind my leg. Angie had all the moves. And then that wasn't the only thing you helped us with. What else did you help some of these young people do, Angie?
Oh, I was trying to teach them how they can say hello to Ugandan people or staff.
So this is Angie showing us how to speak some Lugandan, hopefully.
Yes.
So how do you say it?
Well, if you watch, you'll be able to see. You need to turn it right.
Just say that again.
Vanu.
Wano.
No, not Wanu.
Wano.
Vanu.
Wanu.
Vanu.
Wanu.
Bevageni Vafe.
Say that again.
Vanu.
Vanu.
Bevageni
Babageni.
Vafe.
Rafre. What does that mean?
So what did it actually mean? Because they didn't know what they were saying.
Yes, it said, welcome. This is our visitors.
Brilliant. Okay, and then we did a lot of dancing, didn't we? So the very last clip we've got of Angie
Yes,
is...
I like dancing.
So I think the team will agree, Angie kept our spirits up throughout the whole time. She was just an absolute godsend to us all. You're not without injuries on the way back, so we kind of need to keep her in prayer because she's got a couple of injuries that are still ongoing from our visit. But yeah, thank you so much, Angie, for everything.
You're
Cool.
You are so great.
I'm not sure you're allowed to move your hips like that in church on a Sunday. I'm going to talk very briefly about schools, because I know Naomi's going to talk more about schools after me. And you look blank at me then, I was a bit worried. Like, right? So when we're out there are 3 schools that we're involved with. There is the Mkonge Mixed Primary School in Burscough, which is on site where we stay. There is the Burscough Senior School, which is literally on a track above that school. And then there's the Mkonge Primary School in Chiindi. Now, which one are we on? Yes. So this is the Mkonge Primary School. And we experienced all sorts of things there, doing teaching, feeding, but most sort of memorably is we got a warm welcome from having sort of dancing and singing to us, and they really loved sort of performing for us as their visitors. The primary school was actually sort of in a bit of transition because sadly the previous head teacher had died earlier in the year in a car crash, which was shocking and unexpected. So they had a new head teacher who'd come and sort of taken over. And you might sort of think, right, well, that's sad, teachers and head teachers in a school, they're important. But one thing that I took away from being any of the schools is the love that is shown between the kids and the teachers and everything is just like a whole different level. It's like you can't, until you see it, you can't believe how much clear love is shown from the teachers and the kids to each other. So Daniel was the new head teacher. If you click onto the next one. Oh, that's us teaching. I was blessed to have Angie in my teaching group, which was glorious, because we'd be teaching about England, and then Angie would say something in Lugandan, and everybody'd laugh, and we're like, oh, what's she saying about us? What's going on? But yeah, I mean, fantastic experience teaching, and they are the best kids you will ever teach in your entire life. I was a teacher for 15 years in Bootle and in Southport, and it's a very different experience teaching these kids in Uganda, I think it's fair to say. If you just move on to the next slide. So we've seen this picture. This is people getting brainwashed into the cult of Everton. And I wanted to show you this really because the fella in the black, I don't know if you can see, the black t-shirt in the middle with the white sleeves, that's Daniel, that's the new head teacher. And he, it was the first time we'd met him, and he really sort of impressed me because he showed very clearly that he loved the kids, but also a very smart, very clever fella. And also, what he did, which we'd not experienced previously, he invited us all to meet with him and the staff at the end of our visit, and they wanted feedback because they wanted to know what they'd seen, but also how they could improve. And I just thought that's really really telling of somebody who's not afraid to sort of hear somebody's view on their school. So I was really impressed by his whole approach. And I think despite that tragic loss, what they've got there is a really good fellow. And I think God's put a really good head teacher at the helm of that school. So that's comforting, I think. The other school, which is the one which is just above on site, is the senior school. Now, we got there and we met a room, you probably can't tell, but well, you probably can tell, actually, a room full of people. And we go in and we're like, introduce as visitors, and then they say, right, and they're just going to share some inspirational words with us and just turn to us and put us on the spot. And we're like, so Joanna, bless her, said, Steve, do you want to go first? So I sort of tried to, while I'm padding while everybody else is trying to think of something to say. But we got to spend the time with, these are all boarders. So it's not exclusively a boarding school, but there's a lot of kids who board over the weekend. And so we got to spend an afternoon not teaching them, but just spending time with them, playing games and stuff. If you just go to the next slide. So we've got pictures of the girls who played all their games. There's no picture of the boys because we are rubbish boys who got so into our game of football that we were playing that we totally forgot to take photos, so I can only apologize for that. But again, a real pleasure to spend time with these kids, or as these are sort of older adults. If you move on, oh yeah, the head teacher of that school is Paul. Paul's the fellow who came to visit us earlier in the year. Do you remember him? He's the fellow I bought him the best ice cream ever. He still raves about it. It's like from a van in Liverpool. Oh, hang on, I've lost my notes. So then if we move on to the next one. Okay, so remember last February when we raised money to go out, and we went out and we were filling holes in the ground to lay the foundations for a new classroom. We went back, and this is the new classroom that has been built. So talk about flipping progress. I think that's mega. What I like about International Need is they're really, really hot on accountability. They really, because I think there can be a lot of cynicism about sponsorship and, sending money and this and that. So they're very keen to say, if you're going to help us in whatever way you want to help us, we're going to show you how we're using your money. And that's, for me, like last February, that was holes in the ground. And then that's a building that's near completion. So, fair play. They're really sort of working there. If you move on to the next picture, this is more, it's not quite finished, I think it's fair to say. But we are getting there, and it's a heck of a building. It's huge, and it'll be really helpful because one thing you realize when you go there, that the classrooms are full. Full to the rafters. Kids, it's 70 or 80 kids in a classroom, and not in a big classroom, like in a small classroom, hemmed in, but so keen to learn. It's amazing. It's very much needed, this new building. If you flip on to the next picture. And also, you don't realize from maybe the pictures that you've seen so far, it's actually on the shores of Lake Victoria where the Chindi School is as well. So it's beautiful, like stunning setting. But I think the one thing I just wanted to sort of say about these schools and what you feel is, first of all, that sense of love, genuine love, not forced love because it's their job, but these adults, these teachers love the kids that are in their care. And that sort of permeates through into like the kids and how they treat each other. And it's a really special experience to go out there and see that in schools. And, it's important for us to be able to share that, because if we're not careful, we can think we're trying to sort of save people. I'll get on my soapbox about being the white savior complex in a minute. But actually, what can we take from these people? And there is so much that we can take from these teachers and just for everyone you meet in the trips to Uganda. So if you ever get a chance, definitely go. Okay, thanks.
Awesome. Put it on Okay, so Charlotte can't be with us tonight. She's on night, so she sent a little video for us to explain her thoughts.
Hi, I'm Charlotte. I've just got back from my second trip to Uganda. I went in 2020 as a youth trip, and then I've just been back again now as an adult. And it was incredible to go back 5 years on and see what has changed, what's still the same. It was fab. One of the highlights of my trip was seeing Abraham, my sponsored boy. He has grown loads. It was lovely to see that, especially after writing to him for the past couple of years. And also watching like other members of the team that maybe didn't sponsor children find families that they wanted to help and go back and tell them that they were getting sponsored. That was really special. I think something that shocked me the most about going back this time was the day in the healthcare centre. So we did an antenatal clinic in the morning, and Steve did an absolutely cracking job. I think he should be a midwife. I think he was pushed a little bit further out of his comfort zone than he'd pre-planned, but he took it all in his stride. He did great. Make a midwife of him yet. But the difference between the antenatal education and the checkups of fetal well-being and all is very, very different to what we do here. And I think I always knew it would be different because they don't have the equipment that we are very lucky to have and things like that. But it was far different than I'd ever expect. So that was really, really quite eye-opening, and especially to come back now to the hospital and using the equipment that we've got. I think it's a whole different skill set of midwifery that they use out there to what we have here, and we are really privileged to have the equipment that we have here, and I think that's made me really recognise that, and be able to tell everyone that we wouldn't know how to do our jobs if we didn't have all the help that we do have with our technology and our equipment and things like that here. So that was really, really eye-opening. I think the whole trip has just been absolutely fabulous, and I think coming back the second time round, it's made me be able to take things in a little bit more because I wasn't as shocked by seeing things for the first time. So I was able to understand them a little bit more and get to find out a bit more about that. So that's been really, really incredible. I think Uganda will always be one of my favourite places, and you never know. Hopefully I'll be back one day.
Brilliant. Go on, Naomi. So we were really lucky to have some people with us from St Anne's Church in Egbert as well. So Naomi's, some of you will recognise Naomi Greenwood. She was about this big when she left. But it was lovely having Naomi as the baby of the team. And she's going to share a little bit now. You will hear from the other two ladies as well. They've sent a video clip. So over to you, baby girl.
So whilst we were there, we visited two schools, Burscough and Shindi, both located in Uganda. And our mission during the lessons and the assembly was to engage with the children and support them through education, spiritual encouragement, and relationship building. So whilst we were there, we delivered geography lessons to help broaden the children's understanding of the world that we live in. Some team members shared about life in Northern Ireland and in Scotland, and others covered topics like music, so different styles and different instruments, sports, so like popular games like cricket and rugby, culture, so like traditions and daily life back home, and weather, so the contrast between our climate and Uganda's. Whilst we were in the lessons, the children were very curious and very eager to learn, and they had lots of questions at the end of the lessons, which was good. We were also put on the spot quite a lot. So a highlight was how enthusiastically they were dancing for me when I played the music on the speakers. And when I got Nikki, who's part of St Anne's, to do some Irish dancing. So she was put on the spot as well, which I don't think she was a bit appreciative of, but yeah. But they all did it as well, which was also really nice to see. Next slide, please. Thank you. So whilst we were in the schools, we then went with them to go and get the breakfast, and they brought their own bowl and their own cutlery, which I thought demonstrated a great sense of responsibility, because I don't think the children that I work with in school, they wouldn't know what to bring. But they lined up in a really, really long queue, and were very patient waiting for the meal. And I think for me it was a humbling moment to see how grateful that they were for just a simple meal, and how much they cared about one another in the process. And I think it was a chance for all of us as a team to love in a practical way and just to meet in a basic need. Next slide, please. Thank you. So on the Friday we did assemblies, and I think this was, for me, like a weight lifted after doing the lessons, because I got to dance and sing with the kids. So we organised 2 interactive assemblies to wrap up the week. One assembly, which was ours, was focusing on the parable of David and Goliath, which is a powerful message about encouragement and trusting in God. And the second assembly was introducing the children to the concept of the teaspoon prayers. So thank you, sorry, and please. And the children were highly engaged, and they acted out parts in our assembly. I think they played, was it David that they played? Yeah, David. Oh, you're there. I was wondering where you were. And they joined in the songs and came up right to the front and started dancing. And the teachers also came up to the front and started dancing as well. And I think their energy and their openness to faith was truly moving, especially through the prayers that the girls were doing. Because there was girls in front of me who were, like, you could see were proper deep in prayer. And I think in our church, I don't think I'd find one child their age praying as much as they did. But I think that's it. Next slide. Yeah, it's just basically what I've just said. That's it.
Brilliant. What have you been doing here in Greenwood, having no children praying in your church? That's disgraceful. Right, Mike, do you want to come up? I love that picture of Mike. There's a story behind him being an average drummer. If you ask any of the team, they'll tell you.
Yeah, it comes up in about 2 minutes. Yeah, so you might as well go to the next slide. Didn't expect that to happen. Yeah, so on the Monday, some of us got to go to Kindy, and obviously, as Steve's just said, this is the building which St. John's has helped fund. So we got to go, and we got to help by painting one of the classrooms that's there. So that was myself, Steve, Naomi, Nikki, Philippa, and Joanna. Yeah, so there we are. That was just really quite nice, because obviously the team that went out last time got to help with the foundations, and then we've got to kind of carry that on by helping them out by painting the classroom. Yes, you can move on to the next slide. So yeah, that's a bit of us trying to paint. You can see by the amount of paint on the floor, not very successfully. What was quite cool, though, was the head teacher just mucked in and got involved, which was just great. I'd love to see that in this country. It's not going to happen, but it would be good. Yeah, so next slide. So yeah, that's us once we had done. As you can tell by Steve, there was a lot of paint, not on the walls. But it did mostly go on the walls. Danny gave us 6 out of 10, which I am taking. I'd also like to point out this is an undercoat, so no one will ever see this. Yes, so afterwards, if you want to go to the next slide, the kids thanked us. They wanted to dance for us to thank us for what we'd done. Very kindly, Joanna wrote me into drumming with them. So yeah, if you want to go to the next slide and just play that video. So there's two highlights from this for me. One was Steve being told to move his hips more when he was really trying his best. Bless him. Yeah, it didn't work. The other one was, it was really quite exciting for me. Because I think a lot of you know I play drums. I've played drums for 21 years of my life. 21? Yeah, I'll say that. And so I got to drum with them, which was really exciting. I thought I did really, really well. And then afterwards, the teacher came up to me and just went, yeah, well, maybe next time you do it, you'll be better. Which really, really hurt. Right, do you want to move on to the next slide, Pete? So, yeah, while we were out there, all of us did a little daily reflection. It could have been anything. So some of us, played some worship music. A couple of us did some, maybe after a tough day. I remember particularly some of us did some, one positive to take in a negative. The one that really stuck out to me actually was Anne and Angie's talking about what home meant to them, and hearing a bit of their upbringing was just really inspiring, especially Angie for kind of what she'd been through and stuff like that. So I'm going to move on and talk a little bit about the churches. So this is the church in Chiquanya, which absolutely blew my mind. So you can see that is the church on the left, which is just basically some sticks with some metal sheeting on top. But it was just amazing to see this love of God that they've all got. Just to see the excitement of how happy they were when we got there. It was properly inspiring. And then, that was on the left, that's afterwards. So that was all of us kind of with some of the congregation who just stayed behind and kind of would not leave until we started to. Do you want to move on to the next one? So this guy is amazing. So he's the vicar of that church in Chiquanya. So his name's Daniel. He is, I forgot to write this down. Is he 16 or 18? So he's about 18. He's still in high school, so he's in senior 3. To the extent of, so we were meant to go to Chiquanya on the Sunday when we arrived. And they were trying to contact him to say we won't be there because of all the travel issues that we had. And they couldn't get hold of him because he was in a lesson. But this guy basically leads this church whilst balancing that with his study. So they've started to build a church out of bricks, and kind of as part of that, they've started to build him a house, which is here. So you can kind of see some of the people of the village with him in his house. Because I think currently he travels from something like 3 or 4 villages away just to come to this church on a Sunday. And by building him in a house, he can then be part of that community. So next slide again. So and then the other one was the church in Burscough, which again, sadly, because of the travel issues we had, we didn't. A few of us did. So if you want to know what the church was like, speak to Wendy or Angie, because they both went. Sadly, we had to choose one just because we couldn't go to both. But we did a few bits in that. Again, it was really quite an amazing church, just really lively, dead loud. Just all that good stuff. Do you want to move on to the next slide? So this is some of the people from Burscough. So on the left, we've got Pastor Alex, who is just an amazing bloke. He's just so caring, very spiritual. Also saved us from a snake one night, which there is a story behind that, but speak to one of the team afterwards. Quite literally saved our lives. And then on the left, that's his wife, Teddy, who, again, is amazing. So between them, I think they have, 5 kids and then they also look on top of that, 2 foster kids from the community. So that's 7 kids in total that they look after. And also, she helps by making some crafts as well for the community, which is really quite nice. You'll see a few of us have got some wristbands on and stuff that we were given. But she also teaches women in the community how to make these crafts as well. And by doing that, then they've got, some kind of income. They can start, making them as well. If you want to move on to the next slide. So you may or may not have seen some of those that have got these wristbands on that say I surrender on them. And there is a meaning behind that. I'll give you some context. So, right, so we've paint a picture. So we got there on the Sunday. We've had about 2 hours sleep. We're all sat there in Burscough Church, really trying to stay awake. And Pastor Alex just burst into song. See if this works. Is there anything coming out there, Sam? Don't think it is. Oh, it's on my phone. Don't worry about it. I might have to. Yeah, he just basically burst into chorus of I surrender all. There we go. So this is a lovely song with a lovely meaning, but again, when you've had 3 hours sleep and Pastor Alex keeps singing it for about 15 minutes straight, and you're really struggling to keep your eyes open, it gets a bit taxing, is one way to put it. And it kind of just became a running theme of the trip that people just burst into I surrender all at random intervals, to the extent that we asked Teddy to make us these wristbands that say I surrender on them. One thing that kind of stuck to me, and I think it was Joanna that pointed it out to us, actually that phrase of I surrender just became actually a really important part of the trip from a faith point of view, for me especially, but I suspect for a lot of us. And there'd just be constantly moments where that just became apparent. The way to say it is, you go to these people and they have absolutely nothing, but they are so full of God and their faith is so strong and amazing. And I just wonder, us coming back to ourselves, how much of that can we take? How much can we surrender ourselves to God and just say to God, just take control and see where that goes? And that's kind of like the one thing that is really going to stick with me, I think, from this trip. It's just kind of that phrase, and I'll keep hold of that. And whenever I start to forget that or forget what I've learned, I'll just look at that, and that's just a little reminder. But yeah, that is me done.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. So Amelia's going to share now. Amelia is working out in New York at the moment. So poor Amelia, on top of having the 60 hours going, also had a journey from New York before that, and she got back. She got back here for about a couple of hours, and then she had to fly back to New York as well. So she had an even longer trip than any of us. But I think she still had a good time. We'll see.
Hi, I'm Amelia, and I just got back from my first time in Uganda. It was also my first time in Africa, so everything that I knew was what I'd heard from other people, especially Charlotte, and so I feel like I went into it a bit blind, but I definitely think that that was a good thing because it allowed me to shape my own experience and my own opinions, and it was a truly amazing trip. The people were amazing, the IN staff were amazing, Paul, the social worker, was just incredible. The way he looked out for the children and cared for them and advocated for them was really, really lovely to see. We would be on our way to sponsored children visits, and you'd ask a question about any one of the children and he would know off the top of his head without having to look at his phone or any notes. He would just know the answer to the question. So he truly did know the families and the situations that the children were in, and I think that was really important. So that was one of my highlights, alongside also going to finally see the children that my family has sponsored for, must be coming up to 10 years now, Lazia and Nusura. It was really lovely to see how they've grown up from the pictures that we have in our living room. We've been sending them letters, so it was really nice to actually have a conversation with them and learn about what they were interested in, what they wanted to be in the future, their hobbies, their passions. So that was also really nice to see. And something that I found a little bit difficult was going around the unsponsored children's home visits, because the difference in the conditions between the sponsored and the unsponsored children was quite drastic. and it was quite tough to see some of the conditions that they were living in, not just the physical conditions, but also the family situations. But it was also really lovely to see that these people and the children and their families were able to be sponsored by members of our community at the church, and I'm really glad that I also got the opportunity to sponsor a child, Sharon, who is 15 and wants to go back to school. So that was a really lovely experience as well. The only other low that I personally experienced was the spider incident. Nobody thought to warn me that in Ginger they are massive, and they have webs that span across all the trees, and there are hundreds of them, which resulted in a minor panic attack. So if you're thinking of going to Uganda, maybe bear that in mind, because they don't warn you. But on the whole, I had an absolutely amazing experience, and I would love for the opportunity in the future to be able to go back at some point. Thank you.
Poor Amelia was traumatised, without a doubt. Okay, Wendy, if you want to come and you can share. Wendy was a bubble lady while we were there.
I didn't know you'd given me that title, but thank you. I did get quite excited with bubbles, but what hadn't occurred to me, Joanna encouraged us to take a few toys out there to entertain the children, and I was looking at all the, like, you know, the things you put in like party bags for kids, and I was like, oh, bubbles. But what hadn't occurred to me was that most Ugandan children had never seen bubbles before. So at first they were all a bit intrigued and a bit unsure. Steve's brother's sponsor child was absolutely terrified of them. I felt awful. She like literally ran off screaming. She was not impressed with bubbles. But on the whole, most of them were run round with bubbles, and it was a lot of fun actually having bubbles with them. That's just a little aside. So I'm actually going to talk about the WASH project. If we go on to the next slide, please. So I've just identified here, this was a quote actually that I took off IAN's website. So the problem is, and this is part of what we saw in there, and the team of IAN were really keen for us to see this, 60%, and this is taken from about 5 years ago, I think, so it might be a little bit out of date, but 60% of children in Uganda live over 30 minutes walk from a water source. And when we came back from Uganda, just turning on the tap and having running water was like, wow, how lucky are we? In Burscough itself, where we went, 50% of the population don't have access to safe water, which is a very scary thought, because obviously there's a lot of waterborne diseases caused by that. And 40% of families don't have access to a toilet. So you can imagine how hard that is, especially in the heat that is over there. That causes a heck of a lot of problems. So we had a go at carrying water. So these people here, we'll flip back to them in a second, but these people here, we carried water for them. So we went to visit Joseph's well that we raised money for on behalf of Joanna's Joseph, and we carried water from Joseph's well to these people, and we're told that this is a journey that they have to do, I think 4 times a day, did they say? And it didn't feel like a huge walk for us, because there were loads of us carrying the water, but I can imagine when they have to do it there and back 4 times a day, even a 20-minute walk feels like a very long way. And we were hoping as a group to fundraise, well, we all put some money in to put guttering on and have a water tank for them so they wouldn't have to do this as often. But sadly, Joanna's heard from them since that the lady in green, the Jar Jar, or Grandma, has since died. So that money that we raised has gone to fund another family, hopefully for something similar. But she seemed quite well when we were there. I don't know what the reason was. Do you know? Oh, she had a stroke. Okay, so unfortunately that money that we raised is going to go to someone else. But it just gave us an opportunity, you can go to the next slide, where we had a go at carrying water, just to have a little experience of what they have to do. And like, we took it in turns, so we were like, we passed them around. In fact, I was laughing when I was looking at the photos. Mike, you were on loads of the photos, but you were never carrying water until that one. So I was like, I need to find a photo of Mike carrying water, because it just looks really bad otherwise. I did find one of you carrying water. But we took it in turns, so we didn't even carry it all the way there. They had them like on their heads, and then they had like one on their head and 2 in their hands, and like, it's unbelievable. And this is like little kids. This isn't even just the adults that do this. And obviously, the further they have to carry them, the children that are going off to do this are vulnerable on those journeys, particularly the young girls that have to make these trips. So, because some of the wells and water sources are quite remote. So it was just really humbling for us to have this experience and to see what it was like. Next slide, please. So yeah, this is just a picture of us carrying the water and having an experience really of what it would be like for those people. So just to tell you a little bit, they wanted to educate us about what they're doing with the WASH project. So the WASH project, the aims, it's got 3 main aims. So next slide, please. The first aim is to support people with access to safe water through digging wells and improving access to natural springs. So this is Joseph Marshall's well. So we went to visit it, which was just an absolute privilege and obviously quite an emotional moment for all of us as a group. But the thing that struck me about Joseph's well more than anything was the community that they've got there who are keeping the well running were just like, this well is always in use. Like, the community rely on this well. Like, without this, they had to walk so much further for water. And they said there is always someone using it. It's made like a massive difference to that community. The fact that they can go and fill up their water, and this well has literally brought life to this community and saved thousands of lives because they've now got clean water. So we all had a go. This was kind of before the other bits that you saw where we then took the water. So next slide, please. So they also make use of natural springs. So that is a rice field that we visited, but they took us there to show us when they find a natural spring within the fields and the area, they'll make it into that kind of safe area, like you can see with the steps, where the people can go and make use of these natural springs as well to have the safe water to drink. And that was our group walking down to the natural spring. Next slide, please. Okay, so this, I think Zach had this picture up before. So this is Christine, who is now my sponsor child. She's absolutely beautiful. This is their toilet. I don't need to say more than that, do I? It's also their shower. So they also have showers in there. So that is what they use. I mean, it defies belief, doesn't it, really? It's not safe. It's not hygienic. It's about, what was it, about 10 metres from the house? It's not far, is it? But not pleasant to have that. It is basically just a hole that they have to kind of keep redigging and refilling in, and it just, yeah, it was really upsetting. When we went to visit the non-sponsored children, we visited Christine. I think she was one of the first ones we went to see, and I think all of us were just like lost for words at how basic the conditions are. This was the toilet. The house was so basic. It just, you know, we don't know we're born in this country. Next slide, please. Okay, so one of the things that the WASH project that IN are doing is trying to help people build toilets, so simple toilets, but, you know, better toilets than the one that Christine has in her family, and also something called tippy taps, which any of you who've heard of IN before or been to one of these before will have heard of. It's a really simple contraption made of local resources, so we literally watch the team collect the wood to make this. They make a wooden frame. They then hang like an old oil can, which has been cleaned out, make a little pedal out of a stick and a little base, which is just stones in the mud, that they can press on the pedal with their foot, and there's a little hole drilled into the can, and it just gives them that little bit of running water. They then use an old disposable water bottle to cut out a bit of it and make that the soap dish, so they've got soap, and they build them near people's toilets, where they have got toilets, so that they've got a way of washing their hands as soon as they come out of the toilet, because so much of the problem with these waterborne diseases is just the lack of hygiene. You know, we come out of the toilet, we wash our hands, it's, you know, it's all fine, but they don't have that. So this is giving them a way where they only have to fill that can up hopefully once a day, but they can all wash their hands after they've been to the toilet or before preparing food. So really simple, but so valuable. I think we've got a video. We got Danny to put the hammers in, because he was the only like person who was like, what's the word? Trade person. Is that the right phrase, Danny? So he did a token gesture of hammering the nails in anyway, which was very useful. But then I've got a video here. Hopefully it'll work. Is the video even there? Okay. Okay. No, okay. So I put a video on. I'm sorry it's not worked. I'm not very technological. But it was basically a video of the elderly couple that they had the tippy tap built for, and showing the team, teaching them how to use it, that you go to the toilet, you come out, you wash your hands, and you do this. And like, this elderly couple were just so thrilled with this tippy tap, weren't they? They were just like, it's something so simple, and they were over the moon with it. So I'm sorry the video didn't work. So then the third aim of the WASH project is to also teach them, because, you know, we take for granted that, you know, we're taught by our parents or our families the importance of hygiene, but a lot of the problems out there, you know, in the past have been because of lack of education. So they don't understand why people get ill or why there are so many issues. So they try and teach the children in schools about good hygiene, and then they encourage them to go home and teach their families and their communities about the importance of things like washing hands. And the idea is that that will save lives, because hopefully once they've had that opportunity to learn a bit about it, they can be a bit more careful and make improvements in that area. And I think that's it about the WASH project. I just want to say one last thing. Thank you so much to the team, because I have to say, considering the journeys we had and the lack of sleep and everything else and the emotional, like, it was a really emotional trip. I think I'm right in saying there wasn't, like, I didn't hear any cross words, any grumpiness. Like,
Just me and Steve all the time.
well, other than Steve, no cross words, no grumpiness, and like, genuinely, it was an absolute pleasure to be part of this team. So I want to say thank you to the rest of the team, because I feel so blessed to have been with this team, especially Joanna and all the hard work she put in, and Steve. Hats off to you, Joanna. You literally did not stop the whole time we were out there. But thank you, team, because it was an absolute blast to be with you all. Thank you.
Okay. Just very quickly before we see Nikki's, we're just going to watch Nikki's clip, Anne. So just before we watch Nikki's clip, just so you know what's happening. So there's a team going out in 2026, and their whole focus is going to be based around WASH. WASH have done about, I think it's 36 communities that they've been involved in. They've just had a big review, and there are 9 communities that still need more work to be done, one of which is the well in Chiquanya. It's just such a massive area. They're going to go, and the 2026 team are going to be hopefully doing some work back out in Chiquanya, so keep your eyes open for that. We're just going to watch Nikki now from St Anne's. She sent her thoughts through.
Hi, I'm Nikki. I'm from St Anne's, Edinburgh, and I was lucky enough to be on the most recent trip to Uganda. I'm sorry I can't be there tonight to speak to you in person, but I recorded this video just to tell you a little bit about my experiences while I was there. First of all, I enjoyed every moment that I was in Uganda. I really fell in love with the people, the place. Everywhere we went, we got such a warm welcome. Through dance, through song, through prayer. There were often gifts as well, gifts from people that really had nothing. And I mean, their generosity was just immense and a real example to us all. I loved where we stayed, which was so close to the Burscough primary school. We were able to, in the morning, watch the children coming to and into school, and in the evenings, play all their games, and sometimes we had the opportunity to go out and join in with them. As a teacher myself, I was particularly interested in the education in Uganda, and had the real privilege of delivering some lessons in the 2 schools, as well as some assemblies. I found the children really respectful, genuinely interested in what we were teaching. They had such energy and enthusiasm for school. They saw it as a privilege, you know. Particularly loved the school in Shindi, and, you know, of course their classrooms were so much simpler than ours, and they didn't have half the resources we had, but I was so envious of their sight and the beautiful fields and the view over Lake Victoria, the sun shining, and of course, you know, the positive attitudes that the children had, these happy dispositions of everybody that we met. Just filled my heart with joy, really. Kept imagining what it would be like to work there, and I thought, you know what, I'd be really happy working here. I enjoyed spending time with the head teacher as well, because I was able to quiz him a bit about education in Uganda and learn from that. But also to witness the growing development of the school, which St John's have actually been a part of, and hopefully we will contribute to this more in the future. Other moments I think that really stood out for me were the home visits. I mean, it was difficult witnessing the conditions that many of these families were living in, you know, large families in mud huts, with maybe one mattress to sleep on, long journeys to go and get clean water. But, you know, we were really cheered by the warm welcome we received and how happy these people were. Their deep faith was also evident. You know, we prayed together, we prayed out loud together. It was just so obvious. And then it was really special to be able to go back to those families and bring them resources, but also to promise them that we would sponsor some of their children, which makes a really significant difference to those families. Other things that I admired or picked up on, I suppose, were really how resourceful the people were, and how they worked together so well as a community. I think this was really evident in the WASH project, especially, where there was a group from within the community who were responsible for the management and the maintenance, I suppose, protection of the water tap and the water source. And then like the creation of the tippy taps, these kind of taps made out of plastic bottles with like a little foot pedal, how resourceful that was, being able to use just things they find in the community to help them with their sanitation. One day we were just walking down the street, I think we just visited one of the families, and I found this little boy who was just playing with like a toy car which he'd made himself. It was out of a bottle and stones and bottle tops as wheels, etc. And do you know what I thought? This is the type of thing we get our children to make in the UK as part of, say, a DT project. And here we have a child who's just created this himself for something to play with. And I just thought, wow, you know, how wonderful that was. My heart, my head is just so full of happy memories from my time in Uganda. I can't stop thinking of my time there, really, and I'm desperately trying to figure out when I can go back and can get some more time off work to go back. But in the meantime, it's thinking more about how we can continue to support the beautiful people that we met there through more sponsorship, through fundraising for more resources. And what I'd say is, if you get a chance, go. If you can't go, think about sponsorship. We left knowing that 20 or maybe more children were going to be starting school the Monday after we left, that they'd have 2 meals a day, that they would have access to healthcare, and you know, that would really take the pressure off their families, and that really did make me happy, and I really thank God that we could make that little difference to those people. But yeah, it was truly amazing. Loved it all.
Brilliant. I'm just conscious of the time. So if you need to leave, we won't be offended. We're probably going to be about another 10 minutes. But if you do need to leave, that's absolutely fine. But Anne is going to...
I might need you to hold that. Okay. Sorry, people. I'm Anne. I go to the 9 o'clock, and I'm a technophobe. So anything to do with things like this and whatever comes from Joanna or other people. Okay. Can I just add about the WASH? I think it was somebody from the WASH program told me that when it was COVID over there, the people who had been taught to use the tippy tap, none of them got COVID. And that's an amazing thing. Something as simple as that, just washing your hands after you go to the toilet or before you prepare food, saved those people from getting COVID. Anyway, okay. All right. So I'm talking about child sponsorship, and loads of you may already know lots about that. So I'm going to make you a challenge at the end. Okay. So I first found out about child sponsorship in 2016, when somebody came from IN, and Joanna had people here, and we were learning about the sponsorship. And I persuaded my Paul to sponsor a boy called Mazamoro. These are all the letters and the information. So if anybody wants to have a look at this, ask me afterwards. And again, anybody interested in sponsorship tonight, ask anyone who's been on the trip, because we will bore you silly about it. But it's so, so important. On the last day, when we met with Justice, he really
told me something that absolutely inspired me to talk about sponsorship tonight in particular. Because he said the whole IN idea started with trying to help one child. How can we help one child? And then they realized pretty quickly they couldn't just help one child because they had to help the family. They had to involve the family. And everything to do with the sponsorship also involves the family. And then they couldn't just involve the family and the child, it had to be the community. And when Wendy was talking about the well, that well is almost guarded by the community. And it's the community that then tell IN where the greatest need is. So when we went to see the boy who had special needs, it was the community that had told them about the family. Twins, special needs, who lived with a grandmother. Okay, so it's the community that identify the person, the child that needs sponsorship. And then IN tried to match the sponsor to the child. Again, Justice highlighted it. For some children going to school, the most important thing is that they get 2 meals a day. And you might have noticed some of the photographs earlier where people in the team had the big coloured jugs and the children were there with plastic mugs. That was them getting their porridge in the morning. So that was their first meal of the day. I have to say, to me, it looked like wallpaper paste, but they were lashing it up. They absolutely loved it. And then for lunch, they had, and I keep wanting to say possum, and it's not, but posho and beans for lunch. And that looks, when it's cooked up, it looks a bit like potatoes and beans. And that is so important to them, and then so important to their family, because their family don't have to worry about those children. They know that at school, the children will get the 2 meals a day. As soon as they are sponsored, they're taken into school. And actually, one of the children that Paul's now going to sponsor, we met her at the high school. And the head teacher was letting her come because her stepsister was already there. And the big reason why I wanted to sponsor her immediately was that she'd managed to gather together a little bit of money, and she didn't spend it on herself. She spent it getting pens, pencils, and notebooks and things that she could use in school. She was so committed, so wanting to be educated. It was so important to her. The other thing that happens with the family is that they get access to medical care. So we also met one of the girls who had a skin complaint. Nobody knew what the skin complaint was because, of course, she couldn't get any medical treatment because she didn't have any money to pay for it. But we were told that as soon as, if she was sponsored and accepted on that, she would be able to get the medical care that then, once that had been sorted out, she'd be able to go to school. And you saw Charlotte talk about her sponsored child, and we actually saw him in hospital because he is so ill, he's in and out of hospital. But it's Charlotte's sponsorship that has helped him to have that care that was so vital to him. And as Naomi said, it's the support that these children and families and communities feel because we are doing this. They don't really know us, and it may seem strange that these unknown people want to help them. But this is full of letters and cards and things that we've had from Mazamora, who was Paul's sponsored child. So, I'll have missed him. Because I'm so busy talking. But he was about 19 when I met him in 2019, and he was actually smaller than me. And he was in senior 3, and then he became a boarder at the high school, and then he's gone to university. And that's Mazamora up there. While I was there, I met him, and I just had an email this week to say he's finished, he's graduated. So it's a wonderful chance that some of these children can have. Now, the yellow bundle that I'm cuddling there is baby Brianna, and she was daughter of Sharon, who was my the first sponsored girl that I had. And when I went out to see her, she was 13 and she was taller than me. So the clothes I'd taken for a 13-year-old wouldn't go anywhere near her. But she wasn't academic at all. But she promised that if I sponsored her, she would work in school. She'd just been kept down for another year because she hadn't passed the exam. But she did work. As I say, she wasn't academic. So she got on a course for hairdressing and makeup. But unfortunately, she had a little baby. So she's hoping to go back to it next year. This girl here, that's Kevin. And she's the girl who'd managed to get together a little bit of money to be able to get books and things. Oh, there's Sharon with baby Brianna and her grandmother, her Jaja, on the floor there. So, the challenge. I think there are lots and lots of you out there who already sponsor children. Can you put your hand up if you already sponsor children? Thank you so much. So the challenge is now, I'm going to challenge you to, in the next week, speak to other people about sponsorship, because it is so, so important. When we learned about it in 2016, I said to Paul, it was £20 a month at that time. And I said, that's less than you buying a daily newspaper. And at the end of the day, you throw it away. Of course, there's a lot of you young people don't buy daily newspaper. So I was trying to ask Mike earlier, and he reckons it's 1 pint of beer a week. And you would have enough money to sponsor a child for a month if you gave up 1 pint of beer in the week. It's very, very little for us, but it's huge for those children out there. The children, the families, and the communities. So I'm hoping that more and more people will think about sponsoring. And as I say, talk to anybody on the team, and we will tell you lots about sponsored children. We loved going to see the sponsored children. We love going to meet new children who are waiting to be sponsored. Thank you.
This little video will just show you the impact. This will just show the impact of sponsorship when people came. So luckily for those children, the little boy in the yellow trousers at the back, I think Ian has sponsored Ian. And the little Nicky's 2 children have taken on the sponsorship of little Abdul as well, so that's amazing. I think there were 22 children sponsored on the back of our visit, which has just been amazing. If you've never thought about it, if you just pop up the next slide for me, please. No, the next person. Sorry. Right, so Danny is too shy, bless his cotton socks, to come and talk about this. So Danny, and if you pop on the next slide for us, please. A little while ago, when they had a young adult house group, and they decided to club together to take on sponsorship. Now, actually, Danny and Zach have picked that up primarily. I think there's a few other people do contribute. But if you can't afford to do it, think about doing it as your house group. You know, that reduces it quite significantly. And they've managed to do that. And how amazing was it to go and see Silver? Yeah. Absolutely amazing. They've sponsored him for probably about 5 years or so, at least. So to go and meet him in person was amazing for them. So I think we've just got one last comment from Philippa, I think, and then you can all go home.
Reflecting on Uganda, the experience was so much more than I anticipated. It was such a beautiful country with beautiful people. Who couldn't do enough for you. We'd gone out there to see how we could help, and honestly, I think they helped us more than we ever helped them. There was so much more poverty there than I ever anticipated. Just the simple things in life were just so difficult. Being able to find wood to cook with, money to buy food with when people didn't own any land and they couldn't grow it themselves. Everything felt like an uphill struggle for the people there, and yet they always had a smile on their face. They always made us feel welcome, and they always made us feel like they were the truly rich people in life. Their lives were simple, but it was full of faith, and it was great to be out there and to share our faith with them and vice versa. I think it's an experience that will live with me for the rest of my life. I made a promise out there that that wouldn't be the end of my experience in Uganda, that I would go back, that I would help people, more people out there, and help more projects out there. And that is absolutely what I hope to do with God's help.
Brilliant. So I just want to finish really by saying a massive thank you once again. For 10 years, people here at St John's have put their hands in their pockets and they've supported us in love, in prayers, in finance, whether it's with young people. Just hold fire with that a minute. Whether it's with young people going out or whether it's with supporting classrooms or wells or whatever else. So just a massive, massive thank you. The trip for going in 2026 is already full. We had our first meeting tonight and we'll be going out in February. If there is interest from other churches, we're keen to partner with them, or if you're interested in going, we are happy to organise trips in the future. At the moment, 2026 is as far as we got in terms of planning. So yeah, please have a word if you're interested either with Steve or with myself, and we'll chat to you about the possibilities of those things. We're just going to finish, hopefully, with this. Will this music go alongside it as well? With just a compilation of things. Sorry, Wendy. the songs that they're singing there, they talk about we're the shining stars of Uganda, and the words that they sing in that last clip are really, really powerful. So if you ever get a chance to chat to some of the people, ask them to show you those clips. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it's been a long time, but it's so difficult to kind of encapsulate everything that people have seen and heard. You go with our blessing. If you want to chat to anybody, by all means, they're all here in green hoodies and they've got the information. Thank you so much. But